Welcome to another episode of Eatin with Joe. It is time for our very first side-by-side taste challenge. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Eatin with Joe. Like I said at the beginning, it is time for our very first side-by-side taste challenge. Well, actually, it's more like a side-by-side taste challenge, but more on that later. Before we get going, first I want to thank you all for liking, for watching, for sharing, and for subscribing. Remember, if you do subscribe, hit that bell by the subscribe button and you will never miss another new episode. Now, before we dive into this week's episode, I want to first thank everybody who watched and especially those who commented on the last Dunkin' Donuts episode. Here's my promise to you. I will never overlook the cruller again. That's my promise to you. Now for this week's episode, it is absolutely an interactive episode. You're going to find out real soon which foods we are tasting this week, but here's the interactive part. Before we get going, make a comment in the comments below on what foods you would like to see on any upcoming taste challenge. I'll take the best suggestions, run them by our production team, and see if we can make it happen. Again, make those comments below and we'll do our best to work them into a future episode. Now, on to this week's challenge. As many of you that already watch and subscribe already know, the first thing we want to make sure we do with all these episodes is to feature an iconic food from each of the 50 states. The second thing we want to do is make sure that we discover a little something about the food we're eating or the state we're talking about. And finally, the third thing, what's the point of this all unless we have some fun? So that brings me where we are today. The place, Virginia. The year, 1784. The person, Thomas Jefferson. In 1784, 16 years before he became president, Thomas Jefferson was appointed the U.S. Minister to France. Sweet gig. For the next 5 years, he lived in France and traveled between there and the U.S. quite a bit. During this time, he was exposed to all sorts of French delicacies. At some point, he came across a food that made such an impression on him. He started sketching a machine that he'd be able to use to make this food fresh back home. He'd end up serving this at his estate in Virginia to heads of state and other big knockers from the colonies. You know, basically anybody he'd want to impress. The machine, a macaroni press. The food, macaroni and cheese. Now, there were a few other foods that Thomas Jefferson brought back to France and also made popular, like ice cream, champagne, and of course, French fries. But today we're talking exclusively about mac and cheese. So let's hit it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main event of the evening. Are you ready?
Okay, so for our taste test, we obviously have to have some rules and parameters. There are 4 rules that we're following for this taste test. First rule, it has to be nationally available. Everything I'm serving today is available at least one of these stores: Target, Sam's Club, Amazon, and quite likely any big regional grocer in your area, including Trader Joe's. Number 2, it has to be the most straightforward offering of mac and cheese in that brand. Everybody has mac and cheese, has fancy versions of mac and cheese. We're just going for the most basic mac and cheese that each brand has. Number 3, can't have anything added to it. No bacon, no chives, nothing outside, just macaroni and cheese. And that's it. So let's whip up some of these bad boys and tell you who the contenders are. Dinner number 1 is from Kraft. It is available literally everywhere. Dinner number 2, Velveeta shells and cheese. Velveeta markets this as liquid gold. Dinner number 3 comes from Cracker Barrel. Havarti cheese. Well, aren't they fancy? Dinner Dinner number 4 comes from Essential Everyday. This is the bargain brand of the group. Dinner number 5 is Bear Cheese, grown-up macaroni and cheese. Well, that's quite a statement. I wonder what exactly does grown-up mac and cheese mean? Dinner number 6 comes from Trader Joe's. From the organic family comes dinner number 7, Annie's Organic White Cheddar Shells and Cheese. And finally, dinner number 8, another organic, Back to Nature Organic Macaroni and Cheese. All right, they're all cooked up. Let's dig in. In no particular order. Here we go.
Eat bread and desserts and just get all fat and sassy.
Let's start with Annie's. Annie's Organic White Cheddar and Shells. It's nothing close to Kraft, but it is fantastic. Cheesy goodness, we'll give it an 8. Again, a little bit different, not as creamy. Noodleosity, the shells definitely stand out. We're going to give that an 8 as well. Overall taste, dig it. 8s across the board. Time for the standby, the old tried and true. It's Kraft time. Well, you know what you're getting, but it's good to taste them side by side. Cheesy goodness, we'll give it a 7. Noodles, I don't know, I kind of like the shells a little better, but not going to hold that against them, give them an 8. Overall taste, a 7. Next up, Back to Nature Organic. Now again, we're going to see if organic white powder makes a difference. It does not. You know what? That tastes just like you'd think an organic mac and cheese would taste. Cheesy goodness, a charitable 4. Noodleosity, 6. Overall taste, sorry, we'll go 4. Here's the mac and cheese you can find at over 100 rest stops. Cracker Barrel. It sounds cheesy goodness. Well, that ain't so bad. Cheese is pretty good. I'm gonna give that an 8. The noodles, not crazy about the big noodles. I'll give that a 7. Overall, 7.5. All right, moving on. Bear Creek, grown-up mac and cheese. We'll find out what grown-up means. Oh, hell yeah. Oh my God. We have a new leader in the clubhouse. Cheese is a 9. The noodles, even though they're big, they're solid, they're really good. That's a 9. That's 9 across the board. I think I now know what grown-up mac and cheese means. That was really good. Hold with me a second here. Shazam. All right, before we fill up, we better get moving. It's either going to be a 0 or a 10. We're going to the Velveeta Shells and Cheese, otherwise known as Liquid Gold. Sick brag. Velveeta, you'll never hurt anybody again. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. All right, back on the train here. Here we go. 2 more to go. Essential Everyday, house brand. That is sweet. It's like someone dropped a pack of sugar in there. I think a little Frank's Red Hot would make this pretty fantastic. The initial sweetness is surprising, but you know what? That ain't so bad. Cheesy goodness, 7. Noodleosity, 7. Give this a 7 overall. Essential Everyday, the cheapest one of the bunch, and an overall score of 7. Stick that in your hat and smoke it, Velveeta. The final contestant, Trader Joe's. We'll see if this is anything to write home about. It is not. 5. Again, a charitable 5. So that's it. Looks like we have a clear-cut winner. It is Bear Creek grown-up mac and cheese. Now, like I said, this is an interactive episode. Have you tried all these before? Put your comments below. What mac and cheese did I miss? What taste tests do you want to see in future episodes? Comment away. I will answer to every single one. In the meantime, while I finish up the Bear Creek, I want to thank you again for watching, for sharing. It's a big deal, for subscribing. And remember to hit the bell by the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. So coming from the Eatin at Joe Studios, thanks again, and stay cheesy. And listen, I eat pretty much everything. And when my taste buds reject something, that counts double.